Hey guys, Ms.Goffs here. Just wanted to hop on so we can do our daily read aloud. This is going to be chapter 15, A New Suspect in our book. Hope you all are doing well. Let's jump on in. A New Suspect. The great crystal chandelier illuminated the narrow passageway behind the cabinet. It was not very long. No one was in it, and the place was dusty and filled with cobwebs. "There's probably an exit at the other end of this," said Nancy. "Let's see where it goes." "I think I'd better wait here, Nancy," Helen suggested. "This old cabinet might suddenly start to close itself. And if it does, I'll yell so you can get out in time." Nancy chuckled a little, and "You're a real pal, Helen." As Nancy walked along the passageway, she looked carefully at the two walls which lined it. There was no visible exit from either end of the solid plastered walls. The far end, too, was solid, but this wall had been built of wood. Nancy felt it might have some significance. At this moment she could not figure it out, and started to return to the parlor. Halfway along the narrow corridor, she saw a folded piece of paper lying on the floor. "This may prove something," she told herself eagerly, picking it up. Just as Nancy stepped back into the parlor, Aunt Rosemary appeared. She stared in astonishment at the opening in the wall and at the cabinet, which now stood at the right angles to it. "You found something?" she asked. "Only this," Nancy replied, and handed Aunt Rosemary the folded paper. As the girls looked over her shoulder, Mrs. Hayes opened it. "This is an unfinished letter," she commented, then started to decipher the old-fashioned handwriting. "Why, this was written way back in 1785, not long after the house was built." The note read, "My honorable friend Benjamin, the disloyalty of 2 of my servants has just come to my attention. I'm afraid they plan to harm the cause of the colonies. I will have them properly punished. My good fortune in learning about this disloyalty came while I was at my listening post. Every word spoken in the servants' sitting room can be overheard by me. I will watch for further." The letter ended at this point, and instantly Helen said, "Listening post?" "I presume the kitchen," Miss Hayes replied, "and it seems to me that once heard, the present kitchen was a sitting room for the servants long ago. You recall that back in colonial days, food was never cooked in a mansion. It was always prepared in another building and brought in on great trays." Helen smiled. "With a listening post, the poor servants here didn't have a chance for a good chit-chat together. Their conversations were never a secret from their master." Nancy and Aunt Rosemary smiled too and nodded. Then the young sleuth said, "Let's see if the listening post still works." It was arranged that Helen would go into the kitchen and start talking. Nancy would stand at the end of the corridor to listen. Aunt Rosemary, who was shown how to work the hidden spring on the cabinet, would act as a guard if the great piece of furniture suddenly started to move and close the opening. "All ready?" Helen asked. She moved out of the room. When she thought Nancy was at her post, she began to talk about her forthcoming wedding and asked Nancy to be in the bridal party. "I can hear Helen very plainly," Nancy called excitedly to Aunt Rosemary. "The listening post is as good as ever." That's a little suspicious." When the test was over and the cabinet manually closed by Nancy, she and Helen and Aunt Rosemary held a whispered conversation. They all decided that the ghost knew about the passageway and had overheard plans which those in the house were making. Probably this was where the ghost disappeared after Miss Flora spotted him. "Funny that we seem to do more planning while we're in the kitchen than any other room," Aunt Rosemary remarked. Helen said she wondered if this listening post was unique with the owner and the architect of Twin Elms Mansion. "No, indeed," Aunt Rosemary told her. "Many old homes were there where servants had such places. Don't forget that our country has been involved in several wars during which traders and spies found it easy to get information while posting as servants." Very clever, Helen remarked. And I suppose a lot of people who were caught never knew how they had been found. No doubt, said Aunt Rosemary, and at that moment they heard Miss Flora's feeble voice calling from the bedroom, and hurried up the steps to be sure that she was all right. They found her smiling, but she complained that she did not like to stay alone so long. We're going to stop right there for today. I hope you all enjoy. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our page. Be back tomorrow with another Read Aloud.